Emmanuel Macron has won the first round of the French election, and right-wing rival Marine Le Pen will fight him for the presidency for a second time. Macron told his supporters, "Make no mistake, nothing is decided." In the end, he won a convincing first-round victory, but at least one opinion poll suggesting the runoff, I should say, could be very close indeed. 49%, 51% said won. Ms. Le Pen called on every non-Macron voter to join her and put France back in order. Joining us now, Paris-based journalist David Chazan. David, welcome to you. It's nice to talk to you again. I was thinking this morning about something I read, I think, from William Hague, former British Foreign Secretary, 3 years ago, and a man not given to making wild leaps of conjecture. But this really stayed with me. I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago. And he said the next presidential election will see Marine Le Pen elected. I hope I'm not misquoting him. I apologise if I am. And he said it was such clarity and conviction, it stayed with me. And at the time I dismissed it. But actually, it really could happen.
It certainly could, yes, Colin. The one poll that you just quoted actually puts the two contenders who'll face each other in the runoff within the margin of error. So there's everything to play for, and Mr. Macron himself has recognised that. His strategy now appears to be to reach out to left-wing voters. Now, he largely lost his left-wing support during his term in office over the past 5 years. He came in as someone who was seen as a centrist, who had served as a minister in a socialist-led government, but now he's seen as more of a centre-right figure, and he knows that he is going to have to pick up some of the 20% of votes that went to the far-left candidate, Jean-Luc Mélenchon. Mr. Mélenchon has instructed his supporters not to give a single vote to Marine Le Pen, but it's thought that up to a third of them may disobey that instruction. So it's a very, very fluid situation.
Yeah, interesting that some on the hard left are attracted, it would seem, to some of her economic policies, which are not exactly what you describe as Thatcherite. David, one poll result that really shocked me was the extent to which, maybe I misread it, but you'll know better than I, that young people are getting behind Marine Le Pen.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of her voters are pretty young. Most of them tend to live in the smaller towns or villages. She appeals to people who feel left out, who feel that Emmanuel Macron is, as his critics describe him, president of the rich. They feel that they've got limited opportunities, and so they're looking for somebody who they believe can really change things. Now, by French standards, the turnout was fairly low in the first round. More than a quarter of registered voters stayed home, and it's thought that that may have favoured Emmanuel Macron because many of Marine Le Pen's voters are young and tend to be lower income, and that's two categories that tend to vote less than better off people who tend to support Emmanuel Macron.
David, there would have been a time, the idea of countenancing a French Republic led by Marine Le Pen would have been, I think I read some seasoned commentator saying at one time, it was almost an open invitation to a kind of civil war in France. She's toned things down since then. Picture, if you would, in a minute and 30 seconds, what a France led by Marine Le Pen might look like.
Well, I think, first of all, she would probably govern with people from what's traditionally been the mainstream centre-right party, now known as the Republicans, the equivalent of the Tories in the UK, if you like. Now, some people on the right of the party would probably be willing to go into a Le Pen-led government. It's very unlikely that she could win a parliamentary majority with her party, the National Rally, so she would need people from the other parties. And although the Republican candidate did dismally badly, got less than 5% of the vote in the first round, the party may do better in the parliamentary elections, which are coming up in June. Now, what Marine Le Pen wants to do, she's promising tax cuts. She says that no one under the age of 30 should pay income tax. And she also, this may have resonance with GBNews viewers, she wants to abolish the French equivalent of the licence fee, which isn't collected by the national broadcaster, but which is collected along with other tax. But then so does Emmanuel Macron. But Marine Le Pen is still vulnerable to critics who say that her economic policies don't add up, because she's essentially promising tax cuts but more public spending. But she's focused her whole campaign on the cost of living. Over the past few years, she's moderated her party's image and her own image. She's toned down her anti-immigrant rhetoric. And so she's been trying to make herself more acceptable to people more in the centre ground who she knows she needs to win this election.